My name is Claire Makilangan, and I'm an emergency room travel nurse, and I was exposed to COVID-19. Best practice for us in terms of PPE and the isolation types, for example, like flu-like, and then now COVID is these patients are put in an isolation room, and the practitioners, whether it be the nurses or the doctors or whoever else entered the room, would wear like a single level goggles, mask, and gown per patient. And as time went, there's less PPE available, and you couldn't do best practice anymore. You were told to use the same mask, use the same gown the whole week unless it was soiled. To pinpoint it, I had 2 weeks in a row of stroke patients, and this is a time where not every patient was wearing a mask unless they had a cough or they traveled. So after the fact, for example, these 2 stroke patients, you take them to the CAT scan, you come back, set them up. So you're already like exposed the second they come in, because we weren't putting masks on anyone. And they didn't have a cough, they didn't travel, they're older, so they're not out a lot. So you didn't think about it. And I had like 2 weeks of this happening back to back. And by that last week is when I had the symptoms, and I'm like, okay, for sure, 2 weeks worth of this of just straight up exposure had to be it. Because when I would go home, I wouldn't go out. The only place I would go is work and back. That's it. So I had sore throat, a little bit of a runny nose, headache got really bad, but you just figure that goes along with the sore throat and the runny nose. And then 2 days after that started, I felt my taste and smell go. And I'm like, oh, for sure, I need to get checked. It came back the next day, and it was like critically detected, the virus. And I'm like, oh boy. So definitely isolated myself. The fever started the third day on. I had a 100 and then a low grade fever. And then I couldn't breathe. So I have asthma. The feeling of going into the shower day, I want to say 4, 5, and 6, I felt like I was drowning in the shower. I don't naturally sleep on my belly, but that's called proning. And that's what we were doing in the hospital. So I started to prone or sleep on my stomach and lay on my stomach through the day when I would sleep, but you can't breathe. And I slept with a pulse ox on, and the pulse ox usually, we would hospitalize people under 95, and here I am at 88 at home, and this is for 2 weeks straight. And it was a little bit of a should I go to the hospital towards day 8. And I kept just saying, you know what, there's still other things you could do to help yourself. You got the antibiotics, you got your inhaler, you're sleeping prone, you have the Tylenol, just keep drinking water and resting. Someone else can use that bed. You're not critical yet. And I hate to say that that's the point that you usually kind of wait for as a nurse. You're just you could figure it out, and then someone else can get that bed. My biggest fear was that I wouldn't wake up from sleeping on my stomach. I actually was really scared to go to sleep. It's not I'm an older adult and I have a lot of comorbidities. It's just, I'm 33 and all I have is asthma, right? In reality. So you think, oh, she should be fine. But I was really scared that I wouldn't wake up, because I just stopped breathing in the middle of the night because it was just so hard to breathe. Going back to work was interesting and very scary. I'll be honest, the first week, or actually the first few days leading up to my first day back to work, I almost kept telling myself I have a little bit of PTSD, because I was so scared of. It's almost like I was so scared of the thought of work and seeing someone in the same position I was in. But the biggest part and the scariest part was I was unfortunate and fortunate enough to have a patient who was passing, and I was the one who had to hold the iPad. And this became a practice now because we didn't have visitors, so there's no family at the bedside. So we were everyone's family, right? And we always are, but this more so, we were everyone's family. We still are. And I had to hold our iPad up, and the family member is talking to the patient, but the iPad's not holding itself. So I'm standing there in this conversation with them, answering questions for the family while they're speaking and consoling their family member for a good like 20-30 minutes, like, and it's not like, oh, I have to go, like, you stay there and you hold space for them, as well as like answering questions medically and making the family feel better about their family member going and them not being able to hold their hand. So, that like really made me so grateful that I made it through. But so sad that this is what it's come to. I think the biggest thing I want to share for as many people as I can who's going to watch and listen and can take anything from the conversation that we're having is that, you wear a mask for whatever amount of time it is, and it's nothing compared to what you may feel like for yourself or a family member, like being lost and never seeing again. So it's almost like that freedom that they describe as being taken away is the equivalent to someone's like freedom to live, like someone's actual life. Just from a moment of, one mask equals a life. Like that's literally every time I go to work, the amount of time and effort it takes to put a mask, you can even get a colorful one if you want, is nothing compared to trying to prevent, your grandmother or someone younger getting sick unintentionally, and knowing that all you had to do was wear a mask or social distance. But it really is like wear a mask, save a life. That's it.